Okay, Devin, I'm reading this for you. Later that afternoon, Sarah, Mama, and Daddy, wrapped in prickly brown blankets, sat in the back of the rescue truck. As they bumped along the newly cleared road, Sarah looked away from the shocked and tearful eyes of the other passengers. She noticed, as they rode through the wrecked part of town, that several shacks were still standing. Like weeds in a plowed field, she thought, ready to send out their ugly seed to sprout again and again. As the truck jolted across the railroad tracks, Sarah saw the big puddles dotted the courthouse square. Undamaged, the buildings on Main Street were still wet from the rain and looked washed and bright against the gray sky. Earlier, the rescue people had said that the tornado destroyed only their section of town. The rest of Weehaggen suffered only slight wind damage. So that means that only Shantytown was affected. In town was not. Sarah smiled. The bank was still standing. Their money was safe. Then she saw the Willard building, untouched. Thank goodness. She was now sure that the Petersons' home was all right too. She couldn't wait to talk to Carla. The truck, along with several others, stopped outside the First Methodist Church. Ambulances with red lights flashing waited there, ready to take the badly injured to a nearby hospital. Several men from area newspapers were running around with their notepads and cameras, asking people questions and snapping pictures. The families of hurt and missing people were crying and yelling, and the injured moaned on their stretchers. Some people were sent to a temporary shelter at the high school, but the Pucketts were herded into the basement of the First Methodist Church, along with the others who had minor injuries. Benches lined the walls of the huge room, and folding chairs were set up. But folks kept coming in, and some had to stand. The crowd murmured, babies cried, and little kids chased one another. Sarah felt relieved that someone would look after the gash on Daddy's leg. The blood on his pants had become a dry brown stain. Soon, Carla's father, Dr. Peterson, came in with his black bag, and he went behind some folding screens in a corner of the room. A woman wearing a Red Cross band on her sleeve walked around with a pad of paper, talking to people and taking notes. Daddy was one of the last ones she questioned. She then hurried behind the screens, coming out again after a minute or two to call a name. A man with a limp made his way behind the partition. While they waited for Daddy to see the doctor, Sarah said, Mama, may I go to the drugstore to call Carla? I'll be right back. You can try, said Mama, but I hear the phone lines are down. Then let me go to her house. It's only a few blocks away. Before Mama could answer, Sarah saw Carla dash through the doorway and stop to look around with wide eyes. Carla! Sarah ran toward her friend, and the two girls hugged each other. Are you all right? Asked Carla. Are your parents here? They weren't hurt, were they? I'm fine, said Sarah, and my folks are over there. She waved an arm in their direction. Daddy's waiting for your father to look at his leg, look at the cut on his leg. He says it's not bad, and Mama's fine. What a relief, cried Carla. When I didn't find you at the high school gym, someone told me to try here. What about your house? It's gone. Is yours all right? It's fine. A few tree branches are on the lawn. Your lucky box is still safe. It's good you left it with me. Hadn't you heard? Lucky boxes always stay out of storms. And then the two girls giggled. Where are your folks? Carla pushed her eyeglasses up on her nose. My mother wants me to ask them something. Sarah led her to where Mama and Daddy sat. Mrs. Puckett, said Carla, my mother wants all of you to stay at our house until you find another place. That's mighty kind of your family, said Daddy. You're a lifesaver, and from what I understand, that's nothing new with you folks. Mama took Carla's hand. Tell your mother many thanks. We'll be there after we see your father. My mother will pick you up in her car, said Carla. I'll run home right now and tell her I have found you. Sarah was so pleased to be staying at Carla's house that she nearly forgot about being homeless. She and her parents owned nothing but the damp clothes on their backs, a few dollars in the bank, a cook stove, and a lucky box. What's more, her father hadn't promised not to leave again. After Daddy saw the doctor, the Pucketts left the church building with Carla and her mother. They were about to get into the Petersons' car when Mr. Willard stopped them. I've been looking for you, he said to the Pucketts. I'm mighty glad to see you up and about." "We're fine," said Mama. "I was worried about you," he said. "I want to show you something right now. You may not want to do it, but then it might work out for you." "I hope it won't take long," said Mrs. Peterson. "These folks need to come home with me and put on some dry clothes." "It'll just take a few minutes," he said. "Why don't you all come?" So the 5 of them followed him to the Willard building, which was just around the corner, and he unlocked the door. "I can let you people live in the back," he said. "That is, if you don't find something you like better. And I'll charge you the same rent you were paying before, whatever that was." "It was $5 a month," said Daddy. "Not very much, I'm afraid." "It'll be enough," said Mr. Willard. "Do you have a stove that you could move in here?" "Yes," said Daddy, "but nothing else. There are a couple of chimneys that you can hook it up to. Take your choice." Mr. Willard pointed to 2 brick columns on either side of the store. What a wonderful offer, thought Sarah. The building not only had electricity and running water, but it had an inside toilet as well. "It's a good, solid building," said Daddy, "and it certainly would be convenient. We could take the bread right out of the oven and pop it into the window. We could keep longer store hours, too." He looked at Mama. "What do you think, Lucy?" When she smiled and nodded, Daddy shook Mr. Willard's hand. "We're mighty grateful." "It's settled then." Mr. Willard reached into the window and he took out the "For Rent" or "Sale" sign. Sarah could have shouted for joy. At last she knew Daddy wasn't planning to go away. Mr. Willard patted Sarah on the shoulder. "As far as I'm concerned," he said, "nothing is too good for this girl." Embarrassed, Sarah studied her wet shoes. Mama stood in the center of the big room and looked all around. "I could string a curtain across the middle of the store for privacy," she said. "It's perfect." Excitement bubbled inside of Sarah. The building was ever so much nicer than the horrible house they had been living in. She noted, too, that in spite of the afternoon's downpour, no water dripping from the ceiling, and one of the best things about the move, she thought, was that they'd be saying goodbye to Shantytown.